Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. Crypto market losing a bit of ground right now. The market cap is at 190.6 billion in Bitcoin dominance, still holding on at 68.2%. Guys, as you can see, the market is moving a little bit downwards right now. This is XRP on the daily, not much movement. So we haven't seen much over the last couple of weeks now. There hasn't been anything really to talk about with regards to cryptocurrency movement in the space, guys. This is Bitcoin on the daily. We're still hugging this zone here, this 7,100 level. So you can see, although we have dipped underneath and bounced kind of back up and dipped down and bounced up, we're still in and around that zone. That is a strong level of support for Bitcoin. So we just need some momentum to move to the upside, and then we will see some movement in the crypto space as a whole. And so how many of you guys are using Poloniex? Because I saw this and was a little concerned. Cryptocurrency exchange Poloniex quietly informs its users of a data breach. That's right. Apparently there was some of your private information if you use Poloniex. Some of it was compromised. So Poloniex was insisting that, of course, their users change all their sensitive information like passwords and stuff like that. And guys, this is why you should never keep your cryptocurrency on an exchange. If you don't have one of these guys already, I really do suggest you take your Christmas money and buy one of these. This is the Ledger Nano S. This is the less expensive, the first model that came out. You can also get the X, and right now the Christmas pack is still on sale as well, so you can get an S and an X as a backup, and it's the same price as just getting the X, so you can get 2 for 1 essentially, an S and an X. Guys, I have an affiliate link in the description. I put one in all my videos. You can use it if you want. You don't have to use it, but you know, when I see this kind of news, it always reminds me that, you know, anything can happen at any time. And although you think your exchange is secure, none of them really are, even if they have touted, because some exchanges have touted in the past that they have never been the victim of a security breach. There's always a first time for everything. Not to say it will happen, but it's better to be safe than sorry, in my opinion. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. And moving along to this, Sebastian Sankowitz on Twitter at AMDALLEQ posted this with regards to the Chinese central bank, and I thought this was kind of interesting. Chinese central bank announced that starting January 6th, it will lower the required reserve ratio, or the amount of money banks are required to have on hand, by 0.5% for commercial lenders, in the process releasing about 800 billion won, which equals about 115 billion US dollars. So guys, they are in fact lowering the amount, not raising the amount, lowering the amount that banks need to have on hand, which means less liquidity requirements for banks, by 50 basis points for commercial lenders, in the process releasing about 800 billion won in liquidity from the cash-strapped financial system. Currently, the required reserve ratio is 13% for large banks and 11% for small banks. The cut, which is the first in September, will bring the blended reserve ratio for Chinese banks to the lowest level since October 2007. The 50 BPS RRR cut is meant to help banks reduce their lending rate to businesses. The PBOC said in a separate statement, which is ironic because while on the one hand the PBOC pressures commercial banks by ordering them to lower the amount of interest they can charge customers by 20 basis points, which the benchmark rate recalibrated. On the other hand, it boosts systemic liquidity to offset the adverse effects of its first action. Okay, guys, I'm not going to get into this whole thing. I will link the article in the description if you are interested in reading it further. But this is really interesting. So Chinese economy in a bit of a bind. And so this is one of the tactics they're going to try out now, having the rules relaxed a little bit for banks. And you got to remember, in the United States especially, there were rules put in place after the financial collapse so that this kind of thing wouldn't happen. And now China is in fact reversing that for their banks. And as I mentioned down here, it's the lowest level since October 2007. So how could this affect the economy? Well, liquidity crisis? I don't know. Maybe they'll be able to get out of it, maybe not. Maybe they will need some kind of digital asset, some kind of interoperable system that could help China and other countries for that matter, because all these economies are tied together. Get out of this financial bind. I saw this from Bonfire Guy at Blay1 on Twitter. Level playing field is coming, and he tweeted this article from Bloomberg. Again, not so coincidentally enough, relating to China's financial market and continuing on with the theme of the struggle that they are having. So China's $45 trillion market is opening up. Here's what to watch for in 2020. So guys, this is from Bloomberg News. China's Big Bang opening of its $45 trillion financial industry begins in earnest next year, a step-by-step affair that's unfolding just as economic strains threaten the promised windfall luring in global firms. Starting with its insurance and futures markets, the Communist Party-ruled nation will enact the most sweeping changes in decades to allow the likes of Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, and BlackRock to expand their footprint in China and compete for a slice of its growing wealth. So guys, this is huge. The first time China has let in outsiders to play their game. President Xi Jinping is seeking to cushion the world's #2 economy against the steepest slowdown since the early 90s after a crackdown on risky lending squeezed corporate funding and a trade dispute with the US hit exports. Not only will foreign firms bring with them fresh capital, policymakers expect they will force entrenched domestic players to sharpen their operations and become more responsive to the market. China is at a stage where regulators and the government are comfortable that local business can handle the threat of foreign competition, according to Paul Schult, Singapore-based founder of Schult Research and former head of Asia strategy for Nomura Holdings Inc. Firms like Goldman and JP Morgan are looking to expand, merge, buy, grow in the next cycle, not this one. So guys, opening it up to American big players, again, not going to read the entire article. We'll post it in the description. They go into more detail about each particular product, such as insurance, futures, asset management, so on and so forth. But again, for those of you guys interested in the details, always post them in the description. But, this is a big deal for China and the rest of the world. Of course, China, the #2 economy in the world, and opening it up to the US, something they have not done in the past. Is China desperate for new money, or is there something else looming? Could it be a strategic move? Well, that's up for more debate. What I do know, though, is that it is obvious global economies are getting closer and closer together, and digital assets like XRP being on the forefront in 2020 are going to be critical, I think, to make this new world economy function, and perhaps in the case of XRP, help prevent the next liquidity crisis. Guys, I saw this on Twitter from XNEO. That's at XRP_Anderson on Twitter. Why will there be 2 500 million escrow releases starting from February instead of 1 billion? And so guys, this has to do with Ripple releasing escrow every month. So Damor Sahemi suggests 1 billion at $1,000 per XRP would be too big to dump, and XRP Anderson agrees. 500 billion, I think he means million, to Chris Larson's account at a time is enough. Dump it. And a little bit of history. So we know the escrow has been put into place by Ripple for a while. We know that 1 billion is dumped onto the market every month, and it has been, and it will be for the foreseeable future, I think for 4.5 years total. XRP Neo brings up this great article here from XRP Arcade. It's not so much an article as it is a chart detailing all the escrow releases since the beginning of 2018. So it shows the wallet transaction ID, obviously the amount per escrow, and they've always been at 1 billion since the beginning of 2018, even into 2019. Now, guys, we get into 2020. The last single transaction for 1 billion XRP was this month, January 1st, 2020. And then from there, starting next month in February, we're seeing 2 transactions of 500 million XRP each now being, or now scheduled to be released into the ecosystem. So this has been known for a while, but I don't know. I don't think anybody's really talked about this. And I think this is interesting because what are the plans for 2020? Is this signifying something? Obviously, the 1 billion XRP that was being introduced into the market a little at a time was probably sufficient for 2018 goals and 2019 goals. But 2020, obviously, Ripple has made a concerted effort to change this amount, and they were thinking this likely beforehand. We know with the MoneyGram partnership, for example, we've seen ODL levels rise through that Mexican corridor. Are we going to see more corridors introduced, and at what rate? Is it going to be 100 new corridors, 50? 1,000? And what is the demand for XRP going to be at that time? These are all interesting questions, and this to me is a significant clue as to where we could be going into 2020. And guys, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. Could it also be the fact that Ripple expects XRP price to rise, and therefore they will need less of it to fulfill the transactions that they plan on conducting in the near future? Guys, anything's a possibility. Nothing surprises me in the crypto space anymore. And finally, this from David Schwartz. comes from Ripple. And when you thought there was no such thing as a stupid question, David Schwartz definitely sets you straight, tweeting this out. Don't worry, our staff is accustomed to dumb questions. He has been getting a lot of dumb questions on Twitter as of late. Many XRP detractors not really understanding the potential that XRP holds and what Ripple plans to do with the best digital asset on the planet. The digital asset that was created to be a better Bitcoin, a Bitcoin 2.0. So thanks so much, David Schwartz, for the humor. You always keep us entertained. Anyways, that's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.